Welcome to Ask Rob at Malicious Compliance, where a lazy boss gets exactly what he asked for and he regrets it. I have 3 stories for you today, so let's jump into it. Alright, this first post is titled, I have to show up at 8:30 no matter what the schedule says? You got it. I was working for a child care center while I was in college. We staggered staff in and staggered them out so that we were always fully staffed when the kids were there and they had various arrival and leaving times. So staff could be scheduled to arrive anytime between 7:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. I worked Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. Even though my schedule was fairly permanent, I would check the schedule that got sent out every Sunday evening. It would always get sent between 6 and 9 p.m. and it would be for that current week. So we had less than 24 hours notice for our weekly schedule. A hot mess express if you ask me, but I'm not in charge and my schedule is set, so I don't raise too much hell about it. One week, I get the schedule, and it says my arrival time is 9 a.m. instead of my usual 8:30 for that entire week. I figured they're just trying to make minor cuts, and they really like having everyone under the full-time threshold, so I just assumed they were barely cutting my hours so they could get away with it. No big deal, but I knew most of my kids arrived at 9, so I would need more time to set up. I get there at 8:45 on Monday and set up quickly and go about my day. I do a little prep Monday night, so I don't have as much to prep in the morning. So on Tuesday, I get there at 8:55, clock in, and begin my day. My week goes on like that, with me prepping in the evening and getting there at 8:55 until Thursday when my boss calls me into the office and reprimands me for my tardiness. I tell her the schedule tells me that my arrival time is 9, so I'm actually arriving early every day. She says that the schedule says 9 just to indicate that you're on the morning shift, but if you're scheduled for classroom time, you need to arrive at 8:30 regardless of what the schedule says so you have time to set up the classroom. I don't agree with this at all, and it's obviously not true because not everyone arrives at 8:30 anyway. There has to be more distinction than just morning crew versus afternoon crew on the schedule. But she admits that she's partially to blame for the mix-up and doesn't turn it into a formal write-up. I start arriving at 8:30 every morning. Just like I had been before the week in question, I'm not a late person. One week, I was going to be scheduled for the 1 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. shift because another coworker needed to switch with me and we had both agreed to this. So the schedule comes out and says my arrival time is 1 p.m. I arrive exactly at 8:30 a.m., clock in, and sit my pretty butt in the office chair and wait. Well, eventually, my boss notices that I'm just hanging out in the office and asks what I'm doing. I say, well, I was told to arrive promptly at 8:30 no matter what the schedule says, so here I am. She says, we don't need you here for the morning so you can clock out and come back when your shift begins. Nope. I say, you can find a task for me to do until my shift at 1 starts, or I can sit here. But I'm staying clocked in. You were the one that said that I had to be here at 8:30 no matter what. I'm just following your instructions. I had to deep clean the entire school until my shift actually started, but it was so worth it because I still got paid for the whole day and my boss had to admit to me that she was full of it. Watching her try to backtrack was the funniest thing that's ever happened to me. Alright, this next post is titled, I ignore customers because the boss said so. After graduating college, I worked for about 6 months as a cashier at a local branch of a chain sandwich shop. Mostly, it was a great job. Customers were mostly polite, my coworkers were friendly and helpful, and I genuinely believed in the company's products. Even my bosses were pretty great, except for one. We'll call him the jerk. The jerk was belligerent, vindictive, nitpicky, and pretty much an awful boss in every way a boss can be awful. He had the type of crappy, no excuses policy that defined excuse as literally anything besides, yes sir, of course sir. I could go on and on about all the different ways he was terrible, but this story is about one specific flavor of his awfulness. During our shifts, each employee had a certain section of the store they were assigned to keep clean in addition to their duties. The cashier section was the front counters and displays and the coffee kiosk. I don't know if it was officially the manager's job, but as long as I worked there, whoever was the shift manager always took care of the outside patio area. Except for the jerk. At first, he would just say things to me like, I'm really busy right now, could you clean the patio? Which was fine. Part of the job description stated that if you had free time and the manager asked you to do something extra, you did it. He was well within his rights. But one day, he suddenly started asking me why I was shirking my duties by not keeping the patio clean. After all, the patio was part of my section. It wasn't and never had been. I asked the other cashiers and they all agreed they'd never been told anything about the patio being part of the cashier section. I don't mind helping out with the patio if my other cashier duties were done, but it irked me that he had taken something extra I was doing to be helpful and turned it into something that I was neglecting my duties if I didn't do. It felt like a bait and switch, and I felt cheated. The problem, though, was that keeping the patio clean through my entire shift was a huge pain for me as a cashier. In the afternoons, I was often the only one at the counter, and customers would trickle in with a few minutes between each group. This meant that I was constantly having to run back and forth between the patio and the register, which confused customers and made it hard to get any actual work done on the patio. One day, when this was particularly bad, the jerk came up front and started asking me why I hadn't cleaned the patio. I started to explain that I kept having to come back inside to serve customers, but he cut me off. I don't remember his exact words, but it was something along the lines of, "That's no excuse. Cleaning the patio is your job. Now go outside and do your job. Don't come back inside until the patio is clean." That last sentence was music to my ears. I assured him that of course I would do exactly as he said, went outside and started cleaning. A few minutes later, a family walked past me through the front doors into the store. Through the large front window, I watched them stand, confused, in front of the register. There was no one at it to serve them. The jerk had gone back into his office to attend to his oh-so-important manager duties. I continued to clean the patio. A few minutes later, another family came in and joined the first, standing confused and now annoyed in front of the counter. At this point, the jerk must have noticed them on the security camera because he came out of his office and started ringing them up. Then came another set of customers, and another. The jerk was at the register, so he had to serve them. He was now being forced to cover my job because I was too busy doing his. I finished cleaning the patio and came inside, and the jerk immediately tore into me, asking where I had been, why wasn't I at the counter, couldn't I see there were customers. I put on my most innocent smile, "But you told me not to come back inside until I finished cleaning the patio. I assumed that meant you would take care of serving the customers, since I couldn't possibly be two places at the same time." He just glared at me for the longest moment, then mumbled something about how I should have known what he'd meant and I was never to pull a stunt like that again, and shuffled back to his office. Not much of a victory in the grand scheme of things, but seeing the momentary flash of panic in his eyes as he realized his "do as I say, no excuses" policy had backfired had me giddy for the rest of the day. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed those first two stories. Before we get into the next story, if you guys could please do me a huge favor and smash that like button down below and make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any future content. Alright, this next post is titled, "Impatient Professor Will Just Flood Your WhatsApp Group." I rarely use Reddit, but for the first time today, I was part of an act of malicious compliance. Nothing special, but we all had a good laugh about it, so here it goes. Sorry if my English is not perfect. It's not my first language. I am a student in Italy. Right now, we are all quarantined because of the virus, but universities are still holding lessons using Google Meet. We have been in contact with our professors during last week via email, WhatsApp, and stuff, and today at 9 a.m., we started our regular lessons as if class was in session. This morning, our main professor, the one holding the most important lesson of our course, sent an email around 10 a.m. telling us he'll be holding his lesson tomorrow. We already knew this because he had told us already multiple times in multiple emails, and in his message he wasn't asking for a reply. He sent this while the whole class was already connected with another professor and following her lesson, so we didn't reply right away. After an hour, he sent another outraged email asking why no one had replied to his super important message yet, considering we were all home with nothing to do. We were literally following another lesson, all of us. Cue the malicious compliance. 50 out of 60 people replied saying, "Sorry, professor, I was following the other lesson. Got it, see you tomorrow." At the same time in our WhatsApp group. After the first 30, he just replied, "Okay, I got it, you made your point." I told you it was nothing special, but we are all easily entertained during this quarantine. And then in the comments down below, someone said, "Well done, your professor received a very clear message about his arrogance and presumption. Let's hope this lasts beyond isolation." Someone else replied saying, "As if that ever worked." All right, that's going to wrap up today's malicious compliance video. I hope you all enjoyed those 3 stories. If you could, please go ahead and smash that like button down below and make sure to leave a comment letting me know what you thought of those 3 stories today. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any future content. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.